Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. My name's Scott Bell, and today we'll be talking about your service agreements and how to make them profitable. I'm really excited to welcome our special guest today. He's a consultant in the HVAC and plumbing business, and he helps HVAC and plumbing contractors develop better sales processes in order to help them grow their business. Roger Daviston, welcome to Coffee and Conversation.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it, Scott. I'm glad to be here. This is a very important subject. I just got off of a conversation with a client of mine in Savannah, Georgia, and his frustration is he's got 3 technicians who are just maintenance techs. They go out and they do the service agreements. And while we want to do the right thing for the customer and take care of their maintenance, his pain is their average ticket is $23. So they're going out and doing maintenance, and they're not doing anything but just doing the maintenance. And if you do maintenances on 40 or 50 systems in a month, there's a lot there that people will do to make the system more reliable, better. There are all kinds of opportunities, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're really excited to have you today. Again, it's a very important topic. It's a way for us to kind of share best practices and kind of pick your brain on how you've helped HVAC companies generate a profit from their service business. I do want to add before we get started on a couple of questions. I reached out to Roger. We connected on LinkedIn. And through our conversations, I learned that really a couple things. The first is that Roger's from Alabama. That's where I'm from. Although he currently lives in Chicago. Also, we're both Auburn fans, but I also did learn that Roger went to the University of Alabama. So how did that happen?
Well, that might be the subject for a really long podcast, but I'm happy to tell you quickly a scaled down version. So I grew up in a family, we were all Auburn people, and it was in a suburb of Birmingham, happened to be about a 45-minute drive from Tuscaloosa. And I really didn't want to go to college. I really didn't. I just went because my parents told me that I should and it would be a good idea. And so the only thing that I was really interested in was real estate. And you couldn't major in real estate at Auburn, but you could at Alabama. And so it was only 45 minutes from the house. I didn't get involved in any of the extracurricular activities. I just went to class and I'd go to Auburn on the weekends to the games. And, but I changed my major from real estate to corporate finance and investment management. It was in the same financial side of the business, but I enjoyed those classes more about money and capital markets. I changed my major, but I did graduate from the University of Alabama, and just got an education. But as far as football goes, I never changed that loyalty. That's like treason.
Well, no, that's great to hear that you're still on our side.
Yeah.
But to get us kicked off today, you've got many years of consulting in this industry, and before that, you kind of owned, ran, grew, and sold a successful HVAC replacement business. So you've got a lot of experience with the service agreement side of the business. What are some of the biggest challenges that HVAC contracting businesses have in turning their service agreements into a profit?
That's a really good question. And let me explain it like this. I get trolled and hated. Do you know what trolls and haters are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I get a lot of that because I have an ebook that people can download. And the name of the ebook is The Upselling Blueprint. And man, I get a lot of haters and trollers that think that word upselling is a scam. And that the word connotates we're going to go sell people stuff that they don't need or that they don't want. Well, if you sell something to somebody that they don't need and they don't want, that is a scam. But yet we can allow people to buy what they want if it's not going to harm them. So we have this philosophy with a lot of people in the HVAC business, and it's especially the technicians. The technicians have this mindset. It's an issue with their identity. They see themselves conceptually as I fix stuff. Well, if that's how you see yourself conceptually, that's all you're going to do. So they have a hard time making that shift to, well, I'm more than just a fix-it person. I'm really what I really should be or want to be, or we need to really change their mindset is you're a trusted advisor, and you're there to help people, and they don't know what you know. But if your mindset is just don't fix it, don't do anything unless it's broken, that's not going to help them. Let them decide what they want to do, but bring things to their attention that you see that might make that system better than it was before you showed up, more reliable than it would be otherwise. And then there are all kinds of accessories that people have no idea about. But a technician, the challenge to answer your question is changing how the technician thinks about his role as technician. Let me give you an example. I can't remember this technician's name. I know him really well. I think Lonnie. I believe it's Lonnie. He's about my age. You know, I'm 60. He's about 60, and he runs service agreements in his area. And I'm going to tell you, man, he knows these people like family because he goes every year twice. Well, we go into houses all the time. People put Wi-Fi thermostats on, bought them from somewhere else. Why didn't they buy them from us? The answer to the question is we didn't ask them to. But this is clearly something that they wanted because they discovered it on their own. They didn't discover it from us. And they went to Home Depot and bought a Nest thermostat, and somehow or another got it put on, but we weren't involved in that. And so, and this industry has a tendency to complain about the box stores. Why are they selling stuff we sell? And I think the reason they do it is because we're not any good at selling it. All you got to do is stick it on a shelf. But we don't know how to walk people through our store. And when we do, we think, well, you're just out there scamming them. I don't scam anybody and don't want to scam anybody. And we shouldn't scam people. But there's nothing wrong with asking for what you want in life. And, why can't we ask people for what we want? And that is like to bring something to your attention that I saw. I saw that you have a system and, it's just an old style thermostat. We feel like it's important to let everybody know that we have technology where you can control the temperature from your home from your iPhone. Is that something you might want to have a conversation about? No, I don't want to have a conversation about that. Okay, we won't. Good. That's it. But you should have that conversation with every homeowner that does not have a Wi-Fi thermostat. What's wrong with that? Is that trying to scam somebody?
No, I think that's really spot on with what we see with some of the HVAC companies and contractors that we work with. There is a need with the homeowners. It's just about how can I identify those needs, and then I can add value through addressing it. Oftentimes it's just asking the right questions and having confidence to ask those questions. But yeah, absolutely. It seems like more than anything, it's a perception problem and a psychological problem with the sales process. So, based on your experience, you've worked with a lot of HVAC contracting companies who have implemented sales processes to improve their upsells when they're in the homes. Talk about what you should expect from a technician who has successfully adopted a sales process. How much revenue or profit should you be making from that technician?
Well, that's a really difficult question to answer. I can only tell you what I've seen. Now, what's normal and what should be and what shouldn't be, I don't know. I've never measured the norm, but this is sort of an outlier example. But we have a young tech with a client of mine, and he doesn't run trouble calls because he doesn't know how. He's young. And I think he ran 5% trouble calls last year. So it's a maintenance tech. That's the way you get started. You can teach people. You could probably teach me how to do maintenance in a month. Give me some tools and go out there and I could do it. I don't know how to. I don't know how to fix anything. His mindset's right. He's not afraid. No doesn't bother him. He's not afraid of the word no. He doesn't have any fear of rejection or what people think of him. He just goes out there and runs through the process and does what we ask him and follows process. And process is do the greet. Here's the process. And then I'm going to give you his numbers. You do the greet. And the greet says, I'm here to do your maintenance. Before I get started, is there anything that I need to know about? How's everything working? Everything's working fine. Good. That's great. Let me tell you why I'm here. I want to make sure everything's reliable, safe, efficient. That's why I'm here. I don't think I'm going to find anything. I don't expect to find anything. I hope I don't find anything, all of those words. But if I do, what I'd like to do is bring it to your attention. Then you can tell me what you want to do about it, if anything. Is that okay? I go, sure, that's okay. And then you say, okay, how much time you got? And they said, well, I got plenty of time. So you have to agree on all these things. So the customer knows your expectation and you established it. And then when you find something, you say, hey, everything's working fine. You got a place where we can sit down and go over everything we saw. And then you invite them in. And then if they're interested, you say, well, let me show you some options. You tell me what you'd like to do. It's real simple. It's just 3 steps. He does that. And he averaged last year about $20,000 a month in revenue over and above what we sent him for. Some weeks, and he has some really, this particular area of the country has a good bit of mold issues because they have heat pumps with air handlers, and air handler heat pumps are real susceptible to mold growing in a certain part of the air handler. And he just brings it to their attention. They don't like it in there. And he says, well, would you like to look at some ways to get rid of it? And they say, yeah. And he shows them a page with about 5 options. And sometimes they pick a lot of, sometimes they pick a couple of UV lights and a whole house air purifier. Some of these tickets are well into the approaching $2,000. And he goes back and does his work later. It's amazing. But then you got the other guy like I talked to this week, and we're going to work with those guys virtually. I'm going to spend all day with them right here in Zoom. We're going to have a class in Zoom. I'm going to ride with them in Zoom. I'm going to do some of the greets with the customer on Zoom. And we're going to meet the next morning. But so you got one customer who says, we're averaging $23 a ticket. Well, this guy's average, I don't know, it's pretty big. $21,000 a month is a pretty nice ticket average. I don't know how many, let's say he does 3 maintenance a day, 60. What's that number? What's 20,000 divided by 60? That's pretty nice. Mm-hmm. Way up there. So it's probably $500. So what's the difference? Here's the difference. What's the difference? You'll have one owner that says, I wish these guys would do better, and then doesn't really measure what they do. And then you'll have one owner that knows leadership, and he will set the expectation. We're going to do this process every time. And then he measures results. And then he hires me to do all that stuff in the middle. And all the stuff in the middle is changing the technician's identity. As he does the behavior, it changes his identity. And then as he sets a new identity, it sets a new standard. So the 2 things in the middle is do the behavior, you'll form a new identity, and that new identity will set a new standard. But the 2 things that you have to have that I can't provide because I have no authority is you have to provide the expectation from leadership, and then leadership must have a system of accountability that ensures that the behavior in the middle happens. So I get a lot of people say, well, we're going to try this. We hope it works. Don't even hire me. Because it ain't going to work. I've done it too many years.
So it sounds like, the best thing that folks that may be watching or listening today could do if they have an HVAC company is first start with a commitment. And that commitment could be, I want to set an expectation with my techs of what we're going to do when we walk into the door, and what process we want to follow. And then the second thing that's just as important from an execution perspective is how am I going to track it and how am I going to monitor it? There's probably a lot of work that has to go into it in between, but those two things might be kind of the foundational aspects that a HVAC company needs in order to get the ball rolling. So any change, especially if the output is really, really meaningful or fruitful, can be painful. So maybe you could just walk us through really quickly, is this a painful process to set the expectation to get your team moving in the right direction? And then how long should you expect, if you own a company, to start seeing some output from a technician?
It can be a very painful process for the leader if the leader is weak on boundaries. We talk a lot about boundaries in leadership and boundaries in the service process too, but here's the definition of a boundary. And a lot of companies are weak on boundaries because they don't understand it. But a boundary is an invisible line around each one of us. You have this invisible line, I have this invisible line, and it defines four things. It defines who Roger Daviston is and who I am not. It defines what Roger Daviston is willing to do and what Roger Daviston is not willing to do. It defines what I own, O-W-N, what I own and what I don't own. And it defines what I'm responsible for and what I'm not responsible for. If you are the owner of your business, you own the vision of the company, the identity of the company, what your company does, what your company doesn't do. You own how we're going to do it, how we're not going to do it. You invite people into the business and you invite people out of the business. So I get a lot of owners that just don't understand boundaries and they give up their property. I'm not going to let somebody come in here and sit in my living room and enjoy the night. This is my property. Well, that's really easy to see because I got this place that's mine. Well, owners don't a lot of times lose control of what they really shouldn't. And the owners get a combination of two things. And we all do this, all of us. You get what combination of two things, what you create or what you allow. And a lot of businesses have a lot of stuff that they didn't create. They just allowed it to happen because they didn't say no to stuff. So you have to and that's all about setting the expectation. Here's who we are, here's how we do it, and here's what we're going to do. If you want to get on the bus, you're welcome. If you're not, we can invite you out. But you got these owners that say, well, I need these people. We got a lot of codependency out there. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but the service call blueprint and how to execute service calls is supported by good boundaries and leadership. And see, I don't have any authority in that area. So, it works, but you have to be a good leader. And it's interesting. I have a group on Saturday mornings that's free, a free group of owners. It's called Boundary Builders. And I just do it for free just because I enjoy it. They come on, it's early. You got to be really committed to come. But people are growing and how to be a better leader.
Well, I think it goes back to anything that's worthwhile, and that is if you're going to make progress, you have to be committed to it. So there's so much, it sounds like, that needs to go on to getting a tech team or a technician team to generate those upsells and turn a service agreement into a profit for the organization. But it starts with making that commitment and having conviction as a leader that you're going to set the expectation, you're going to go through the process, and you're going to be able to track and monitor it. So, Roger, I want to thank you for being a part of the Coffee and Conversation today. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
My website is rogerdaviston.com. If you look at the bottom right, you can grab an appointment for free, and we can do a Zoom talk or we can talk on the phone. A lot of times I'll start out doing one free introductory class for a group here online. We can do that. And we'll just talk about your business, my business, what your weaknesses are, and see if there's anything I can do to help you.
Wonderful. Once again, Roger, thank you so much for your time. And I hope everyone enjoyed this session of Coffee and Conversation. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Scott.